بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawhar al-Quran wa Durr al-Juz al-Qur'an and spares, and we are still reading from Surah Al-Mujadilah قد سمع. And in the last session, while addressing verse 11, which asked the believers to make room where they are seated in their gatherings surrounding of course, the context is surrounding the Prophet ﷺ, where each one would like simply to stay put and not to give up. And they are not required to give up their seat. Yes. Of course, at the time they were seated on the floor. Very simple structure of the mosque, which the Prophet ﷺ himself helped in building it with his own hands, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have couple of a few prophetic traditions about these adabs, about the etiquettes. One of them is that the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يقيم رجل رجلا من مجلسه فيجلس فيه ولكن تفسحوا وتوسعوا. A man should not basically remove another man from his seating and he sits in his place. Rather, make room for each other, expand. And the same thing on Friday. One should not ask or remove his brother from his, of course the context is from his seating on the day of the Friday on Jum'ah. Rather, he should say, ifsahu, make room. And that's basically on Friday. That's not when the actual khutbah or prayer is taking place. Then it becomes prohibited to speak. And the fuqaha, the jurists, they have differed about this issue. Some of them allowed because they allowed it because the Prophet ﷺ said, قُومُوا إِلَى سَيِّدِكُمْ, and this is about Sayyidina Mu'adh. When the Prophet ﷺ said to the companions, Sayyidikum, and I think this is, it would have supported the Sayyidina Mu'adh in his position as an arbitrator in the case of Bani Qurayza and other it is Sa'd bin Mu'adh really, and other jurists would not allow it because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, whoever wants people to get up for him, they stand for him when he enters, of course, he should see his place in hellfire. It's about one way of trying to understand this. If it's really something about egoism, being pompous, maybe that's the only way out, is that if it's really a certain, it should not become the norm anyhow. And I have read that it should not become the norm. فأما اتخاذه ديدنا فإنه من شعار العجم in تفسير ابن كثير. If you make it a norm, this is one of the norms of the Ajam, of the non-Arabs, maybe you can say the non-Muslims, and it's in the Sunan that nothing would have been more dear to them, to the companions. No one is more beloved to them than the Prophet ﷺ, and they would have stood up for him when he enters, but they did not. لما يعلمون من كراهته لذلك, because they knew that Prophet ﷺ did not like that. He detested that. And the Prophet ﷺ used to sit wherever he reached, he would sit. But the moment he sits, that becomes the center of the whole gathering. And the Prophet ﷺ asked that he would be like, if he prays, then those right after him should be وَالنُّهَى لِيَلِنِي مِنْكُمْ أُولُو الْأَحْلَامِ وَالنُّهَى ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. And that's basically so that they, first of all, in general, so that they will understand, they will internalize what the Prophet ﷺ is doing or saying, and this is why we have two positions amongst the companions, and we can see it today. Say that the Imam lost his ablution. His ablution was invalidated while he was leading the prayer. It's extremely rare, but it did happen with the one of the imams that I know in his like 40 years career. He had such a situation only once in his life. So you need the person right behind him to know what to do in that case so that he would step forward and he would lead the prayer. Or if he makes a mistake in recitation, say in Maghrib and Isha and the Tarawih, he would be corrected by those who are scholars, memorizers of the Qur'an. You need both. And about the يرفع الله والذين أوتوا العلم درجات, it's about the status who are knowledgeable. They are believers, but they are knowledgeable. They are scholars. They are studious. One short, very beautiful story is that Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab met radiallahu anh, with his governor on Mecca, Nafi' bin Abd al-Harith. So when he met him, Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab asked him, obviously it was he had left Mecca, and the Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab, obviously we understand this because he asked him, whom did you deputize, whom did you leave behind you as a governor, as a ruler? Al-Wadi, the valley, because in the Quran it's described biwadin ghayri di zara, it is a wadi, Mecca. He mentioned that he deputized Ibn Abzi, I don't know even how to pronounce the name, رجل من موالينا. So he was not like somebody who could have been, one day he could have been either a slave and he was freed, or he was simply from he was an associate with one of these tribes or what have you. And that surprised Sayyidina Umar alayhi mawla. He was asking him, but he's also obviously it was too much. But the response came from Nafi' bin Abd al-Harith. He said, يا أمير المؤمنين إنه قارئ لكتاب الله عالم بالفرائض قاص. He's a reciter of the book of Allah, the Qur'an. عالم بالفرائض. He's knowledgeable about الفرائض here. It could be about inheritance, the jurisprudence, we might say. قاص, he knows the stories of the Qur'an. He knows the stories, meaning that he could convey, he could draw on his reservoir of prophetic stories and the Sunnah, the Seerah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a'la wa alam. Then Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu said, أما إن نبيكم صلى الله عليه وسلم قد قال إن الله يرفع بهذا الكتاب قوما ويضع به آخرين. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises with this book some people, and he puts down others, those of course who deny it, who do not accept it, because there are those who nominally accept the book while denying its validity. That's of course it's an oxymoron. There's a contradiction there. And then we continue inshallah recitation, and with the hope that we will conclude reading this surah. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا ناجيتم الرسول فقدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقة ذلك خير لكم وأطهر فإن لم تجدوا فإن الله غفور رحيم. O believers, when you consult the messenger, privately give something in charity before your consultation. That is better and purer for you. But if you lack the means, then Allah is truly all forgiving, most merciful. أن تقدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقات فإذ لم تفعلوا وتاب الله عليكم وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأطيعوا الله ورسوله والله خبير بما تعملون. Are you afraid of spending in charity before your private consultations meaning with the Prophet ﷺ? Since you are unable to do so, and Allah has turned to you in mercy, then continue to establish prayer. Pay alms, taxes, alms giving. I don't like the word tax, even in attempting to translate. It's never a tax. It's zakah. It's an act of purification, purifying the money that you keep, purifying the heart. Money, if there is no charity, if there is no zakah, then the money is tainted, the heart remains tainted. And obey Allah and His Messenger, and Allah is all aware of what you do. We do have an abrogation, really, of so the verse, we continue to recite it. The action itself, it stopped. This is the abrogation. It has been said that only Ali bin Abi Talib, the only one who performed this obligation, and the whole thing was an hour or so. And it was the obligation of spending or giving charity before consulting with the Prophet ﷺ. It has been attributed to him that he said a verse in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nobody implemented it before me and nobody implemented it after me. I had a dinar and I exchanged it for 10 dirham. And when I wanted to consult with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I would donate, I would give charity a dirham. Then it was abrogated, and nobody before me or after me implemented. And he mentioned, يا الذين آمنوا إذا نجيتم الرسول فقدموا بين يدي نجواكم صدقة. ألم تر الذين تولوا قوما غضب الله عليهم ما هم منكم ولا منهم ويحلفون على الكذب وهم يعلمون. Have you not seen those hypocrites who ally themselves with the people with whom Allah is displeased? They are neither with you nor with them, and they swear to lies knowingly. أعد الله لهم عذابا شديدا إنهم ساء ما كانوا يعملون. Allah has prepared for them a severe punishment. Evil indeed is what they do. اتخذوا أيمانهم جنة فصدوا عن سبيل الله فلهم عذاب مهين. They have made their false oaths as a shield, cover up, hindering others from the cause of Allah, so they will suffer a humiliating punishment. Always remember, do not invoke God's name in vain. And it has been something beautiful about Imam Shafi'i that he said, ما حلفت بالله لا صادقا ولا كاذبا قط. I have never taken oath in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like by God, neither in truth nor in falsehood, out of respect, glorifying the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be aware, I don't see it in non-Arab cultures, but in the Arab culture, you might pass by a merchant, a shop owner, and they start taking oaths that they did not sell anything, that they are selling this at cost value. Sometimes they say at a loss. This is the oath that could help you sell your merchandise, but it could basically remove the blessing, obliterate the blessings. So it's not a blessed transaction, if you will. لن تغني عنهم أموالهم ولا أولادهم من الله شيئا أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. Neither their wealth nor children will be of any help to them against Allah whatsoever. It is they who will be the residents of fire. They will be there forever. يوم يبعثهم الله جميعا فيحلفون له ويحسبون أنهم على شيء ألا إنهم الكاذبون. On the day Allah resurrects them all, they will falsely swear to Him as they swear to you, thinking they have something to stand on. ويحسبون أنهم على شيء, nothing to stand on, really. They think that they have something to stand on. Indeed, it is they who are the total liars. استحوذ عليهم الشيطان فأنساهم ذكر الله أولئك حزب الشيطان ألا إن حزب الشيطان هم الخاسرون. Satan has taken hold of them, causing them to forget the remembrance of Allah. They are the party of Satan. Surely Satan's party is bound to lose. إن الذين يحادون الله ورسوله أولئك في الأذلين. As for those who defy Allah and His Messenger, they defy, they challenge, they have animosity. They are the antithesis of every good thing, of the truth. They will definitely be among the most debased. كتب الله لأغلبن أنا ورسلي إن الله قوي عزيز. Allah has decreed, I and my messengers will certainly prevail. Surely Allah is all-powerful, almighty. It might take time, but this is exactly the end result. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is assuring at the time He assured His messengers the message will ultimately prevail, the truth will ultimately prevail, and the followers, and we are the followers today, the true followers. There are followers who are following theological constructs that were never revealed. ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان. If you talk about the truth and a preserved message, it's the last hope for humanity. There are followers who, other than Muslims, who respect the human being, who are steadfast in preserving certain ethics and morality. But if you talk about as a whole, the intact message is only in the Qur'an and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. They could be, and this is very important here in the last verse, they could be our true partners in dialogue and convivencia. Let's read the last verse and comment on interfaith dialogue. لا تجد قوما يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله ولو كانوا آباءهم أو أبناءهم أو إخوانهم أو عشيرتهم أولئك كتب في قلوبهم الإيمان وأيدهم بروح منه ويدخلهم جنات تجري من تحت الأنهار خالدين فيها رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه أولئك حزب الله ألا إن حزب الله هم المفلحون. You will never find a people who truly believe in Allah and the last day loyal to those who defy Allah and His Messenger, Islam, truth, even if they were their parents, children, siblings, or extended family. For those believers, for those believers, Allah has instilled faith in their hearts and strengthened them with a spirit from Him. وَأَيَّدَهُمْ بِرُوحٍ مِّنْهُ. This is a reference to revelation, a light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will admit them into gardens under which rivers flow, to stay there forever. Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. They are the party of Allah. Indeed, Allah's party is bound to succeed. So our relationship with those who are respectful, they would like to reach common ground, they are not superficial, they realize our rights, they are against warmongers from amongst their own people, and where the issue is recognizing the sanctity of life, they are against this madness whereby hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people are getting killed, innocent people. In general, as a critique of interfaith dialogue, it is first of all eclectic. Some interfaith dialogue might highlight festivals and food, and that's not really what the problem is around the world. You just go and have a festival and eat whatever you would like to eat in your feast. That's not the issue. The issue is that we have tremendous injustice around the world, and we Muslims are receiving like the lion's share of all this nonsense. And it's been like the last couple of 100 years of different forms of imperialism and colonialism, one thing after the other. You don't see it. You don't see it elsewhere. You don't see it in Southeast Asia anymore. You don't see it in Africa beyond the Arab and Muslim countries anymore. You don't see it in South America anymore the way you see it. There's the nonsense of there's a war between Russia and Ukraine, or rather between Russia and Europe, or rather between Russia and the Western countries, one way or the other. But the idea is you're not going to sit and discuss what people eat, and you expect that this will contribute to convivencia. Number two, so you choose directly to address the injustices with the aim to end and have a loud voice. Number two is that interfaith usually is sporadic. You don't expect to have an impact on what's going on when you meet every 6 months or every year or whatever. It's nice, but it's not going to have an impact. Number three is the professional people in interfaith, who, especially those who finance their institutions through donations, support from institutions in the West that do have their own agenda. And in general, this is not the case in every interfaith dialogue, but in general, Muslims are invited. Like, people have their own agenda and they invite you. What is it that Muslims would like to get out of interfaith dialogue? And usually interfaith people participate in interfaith dialogue regardless their important roles, religious lords in their own religious institutions. They are not decision makers, regardless of the religious background. They are not decision makers, and have seen over the years, over the decades, how politicians gather religious personalities from different faiths, and usually it's a photo opportunity, nice words, and there is no real discussion of the issues. Say, for example, occupation or a genocide, where the other would not even use the word genocide, or would not recognize or avoids altogether the topic. Often speaking about this beautiful story of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Abraham. It's a beautiful story, but that's not the issue. So the issue here is basically لا تجد قوما يؤمنوا بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله, even if they are the closest to them in terms of blood relation, parents, children, siblings, extended family. You should not be loyal to those who defy, who is, especially when they are openly they are Islamophobes, and they are bent on hurting Muslims. In fact, even hopefully, when one day we don't have these problems, we should also make sure that others as well are not mistreated. Others meaning non-Muslims. When you have imperial colonial, you have people or countries that are suffering, usually not necessarily at the hands of some Western powers or some, because the powers are, you can name them on the fingers of one hand. Muslims should have also a moral position in exposing and the injustice and defending people, even if they are not Muslims. Thus, we conclude this surah, and inshallah, we'll begin with Surah Al-Hashr in the next surah. بإذن الله عز وجل. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.